Welcome to the Breadwinners. We're back for season 5 and taking your questions about work, life, and everything in between. I'm Jennifer Owens. I served as editorial director of Working Mother Media and founded the Working Mother Research Institute.
And I'm Rachael Ellison. I'm an executive coach and management consultant who works with companies big and small to design workplace policies that work for all employees. There's nothing we like more than talking about work-life strategies, but we know that in the real world, such questions can be very personal and a little prickly. In this season of The Breadwinners, we tackle them all.
Rachael.
Yes.
So it's time to tackle another sticky work-life question, and this one's a doozy. Are you ready?
Ooh, sure.
Okay, here we go. I have been promoted into a manager role, but it comes with a demoralized team. I am new to managing, and I worry about taking on the negative and demoralized culture of this group. Ouch. Should I run for the hills? How could I turn their frowns upside down? Should I even try? What do you think?
Sure. Well,
I mean, have you ever been offered that? Like, here you go. Here. We're going to promote you. We're going to make you good news. You're the new boss. Bad news of this team.
Clarifying question. Is this an internal promotion? Like, was this person on the demoralized team before, or are they on a different team?
I don't know. It just says they've been promoted into a manager role. So is there a different thought?
They're not on that team, because that's a whole other can of worms right there. Let's assume that they're coming into a team that
they've seen from afar,
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think it's kind of like, it's time to, listener, it's time to do a couple things. One, you got to do some self-reflection about the kind of leader that you naturally are.
Oh.
And you need to do some investigation around what's going on. I think what people tend to think when they come into, or just sort of the easiest.
I'm already laughing to myself because, yes, I have come into these types of situations and already think of myself in some way that's wrong. So, yes, please continue.
I mean, I think people revert to, when it's odd, when it's awkward, when they're stepping in to kind of an ambiguous situation. I think the team that's unhappy, I think you see people sort of taking like a Michael Scott from The Office approach, in the sense that it's like, let's very obviously create a party, let's
forced
very
frivolity is not
fun.
My thing. No, I do not like it.
No, and I don't think everybody does that, but I think it's sort of like
come on, kids, let's put on a show and forget all your unhappiness.
Rush, right? But it's like, I was just talking to a client the other day who was kind of looking at, when you see an interpersonal challenge, the first thing that you think of is like, how do I make it nice and fun? And so that
well, and how do I fix it? And in that fixing is, how can I change your attitude?
Right. I mean, I think, what is interesting, I'm trying to see if I can remember the numbers, but there's a model called the GRIPPY model: goals, roles, processes, and interpersonal relationships. And basically, when a new manager comes onto a team and sees a lot of people who are very unhappy interpersonally, I think that the first reaction is like, let's run over to the interpersonal space and see what we can do to kind of get people happier and do the Michael Scott thing. What the GRIPPY model suggests is they kind of make it into it's like a pyramid, right? Mm-hmm. Goals. Actually, I'm looking at a picture where it's reversed, but it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That's how it's like, you've got to have goals as the foundation.
You got to know what we're all moving towards, right?
Yeah. Then you got roles, then processes, then interpersonal relationships. And so the question is, when you come into that role, I said you want to look at
Yep.
yourself, and then you want to look at the team and do some investigative work. So let's start with the team and jumping into that grippy model. You need to really think about what are the goals that are explicitly agreed upon that folks have committed to, right? Like, so
Already.
not
Yeah.
like, oh, our goals are on a piece of paper and they're in the shared point and da da da. Like, what are people actually agreed to do? Is there a lack of clarity somewhere? If there is a lack of clarity around goals,
Hmm.
stop.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yep.
where you have to like dive in and figure out, let's sort that out. So if you do find, okay, you've walked in, the goals are clear, everybody's agreed and committed to them, fantastic. But then you
Yeah.
look at the roles and you're like, Jeff is really doing what Susan is doing also. So they
That
don't.
was I was actually thinking with goals. I'm like, of course, it gets in the rules of like, because that's where it gets. That's always annoyed me on teams where, hey, this is my yard. Like I totally
Right.
want to work with you and be collaborative, but this is my yard.
Exactly.
Your yard. Yeah. So that's the roles part. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I think that comes up a lot. And I think when practitioners come in and look at the roles and thinking about role clarity, sometimes we use something called a RACI chart. Who's
Yes.
responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, who's informed. So, like, just really trying to map that out. But what I think actually has come up for me in a recent project, and that I've seen with clients a lot too, is you have to look at what the kind of the explicit roles are, like what are the job descriptions, what's
Yeah.
been kind of articulated, and then like particularly in an organization where folks have been around for a while, like what parts of the role might really be hitting a very personal place for them, right?
Hmm.
Like, do they really feel like, oh, I am the one who like always checks,
I
helps
achieved something,
weekly
like,
check out
yeah,
the
I take,
library, and like
yeah.
if I'm not doing that anymore, whatever it might be, right? I'm just coming up with some examples. Which what did you say? What was your example?
Oh, like something where I always do this and there's a sense of achievement that I this is what I do for the team.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that comes up quite a lot, right? So it's about
And
really
it's often
identifying
hidden, isn't it?
what.
It's often hidden in the sense that it's something that's working well on the team and people, because it works well, sometimes people take it for granted and yet it's important. And it's that like sometimes those roles are like, yeah, role as defined on a job description on a piece of paper. But then there's the reality of how that role is actually executed, the extra things someone does, or and I think acknowledging that kind of stuff as a new manager is very
Mhm.
powerful. Like,
Yeah,
really, you do that? Oh, thank you so much. I mean, is that
right.
working out for you? How does it go? And yeah, it's
Right.
seeing the unseen work.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, that's really important. It's reading between the lines, right? It is this
Mm,
detective investigator job that you have. Then, so if you've got the goals and the roles all set, which would be awesome, then you got to look at like the processes, right? Are your
yes.
meetings effective, or are they just kind of
No.
hour and a half rambling conversations about things that are never documented? Not that I'm
I
referring
wouldn't know
to
from
that I've
that
ever
at all.
experienced before.
Yeah.
Are folks able to solve problems? Are people able to make decisions? Like,
Yeah.
can those conversations happen relatively smoothly? If not, you got to look at that, right? And you got to try to put some pieces in place there. Then finally, if all of that's set, you got the goals, you got the roles, the processes are clear, people just can't stand each other. Like,
Right. Yeah.
then you've got to really look at how are people communicating with each other and what are the different styles of communication. And I think it's not so much that you're going to change anyone's style. It's that you just need to know what their style is and what yours is, and how to, be really as transparent as possible about what you're trying to accomplish, like give the context for something when you ask for something, and be really explicit about where you're coming from when you come into an interaction, right? So
Yeah.
again, I'm thinking about a conversation that I had with a client where she was saying that she is challenged by wanting to be the kind of leader who just kind of like does it for all of the people. Like, I've done this.
Yeah.
I can just like gather the troops and we'll go forward because I'm leading. And that person is very conscious of, the need to take a step back and not to give other people opportunities to, to shine, to come to their own conclusions.
Yeah.
She sent like in the process of this team kind of that she was supervising coming to their own planning and coming to their own conclusions, she sent them like a suggestion, like, oh, did you take a look at this? Like, here's one way to do it. And it really set off some alarm bells for folks. And they felt like she was kind of, oh, she's doing it again.
Overstepping. Yeah.
And, particularly people who are just like there's all these different typologies, right? But there's one called communication styles, which is super simple that I like, where it's basically like there are people who, there's a type called considerate. And like, there are people who just like need you to really like sugarcoat things sometimes.
Yeah.
That is what they need in order to feel safe, right? And so this client was kind of leaning towards like, okay, well, I'm just going to like step back and just be like super saccharine sweet and do what I need to do to make these
That's exhausting.
happy. And I was like, actually, I don't think that's going to get you very far because you're just going to be pretty
tapping the brakes all the time. You're just riding the brake on everything that needs to happen. Yeah.
Right. So instead, can you think about, well, two things. One thing, I think the assumption that I hear from people who are finding themselves needing to kind of shift around a quote unquote considerate, like interpersonally focused, the kind of type that I'm talking about. Does that type make sense? The kind of considerate type? Does that do you know where I'm going with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So like, I think the feeling is, well, if they're considerate, then I'm not really focused on the interpersonal. I just want to get stuff done. And that I think is a misconception, I think.
Oh, that's just me.
No, when you just are taking a very different approach. And so what I think we're seeing here is the need to just be more transparent about it. Like, hey, you know what? Thanks for that feedback. Or I got feedback that, I was trying to run the show. What I thought it would be helpful context, but what's important to me is like that you're giving me feedback.
Right.
Because I do want to learn from what you're saying. Right. So I think but being very direct about how that can be impactful. Right.
So you wouldn't necessarily flee the demoralized team role, I guess.
I mean,
it just seems so often, real talk between us ladies.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like I've always thought that, when something is broken, that's when they let a woman come in and lead it. So like, oh, this team is incredibly broken. This country is down the tubes. We'll let you be prime minister. This company is about to get kicked off the NASDAQ, but now you can be CEO. So like often I feel like I am overstating that for sure, but it does seem that often when something is like in bad straits, they're like, okay, well, we'll let the girl take over for now. And so sometimes these are the opportunities that are afforded you.
Right.
But also you don't have to take every opportunity too. Not every opportunity is the right one. So, but
very true.
What do you think about I've done this. I've had these teams a couple times, like stepping into externally, internally, that there just was a chapter that was the Hillary Clinton listening tour vibe, where you made appointments with everyone on the team, and they came in and they had to just vent for a while. Or in one gig, I had a box of tissues because there was so much frustration that tears always happened, and it was awful. But I felt like I had to kind of let that happen, both to hear what they were saying and to discern what they were really saying, but also so that they were heard.
Yeah.
those are rough times.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I definitely have worked with leaders. I worked with a leader who came on a team. I mean, I've worked with a lot of new leaders, but I worked with a new leader who came on a team and it was pretty bad. It
Yeah.
wasn't just demoralized. Like they'd been through kind of
The worth, the ringer.
a
Yeah.
war. Like
Yeah.
they felt that way for a number of reasons. And the
And here comes,
process
was
that,
this person coming in from the outside or from the
yes,
inside? From the outside. Okay.
yes,
Pros and cons, right? Like you don't have
right.
the baggage, but you also aren't seen as one of us who actually knows the culture.
Yes, correct, correct. And, several people on that team had been vying for her
Oh,
spot. And,
yeah,
like
that's
it wasn't a good scene. And one of the processes that I did with this in this big organization is you actually kind of do, in some ways it could feel like a live 360. So 360 being like where you're
mhm.
asking everybody their opinion about someone's performance. But because it's so early in that person's tenure, it's not really supposed to be about evaluating their performance so much as saying, like, what are your hopes for this person? It could be Fred Flintstone, but like, what do you hope would happen?
Yeah.
And what, based on what you know about Fred, what could he bring to the table?
Yeah, what would help you?
Right.
Right.
But like asking questions like that, what does Fred need to know? Yeah. About your history as a team. And so I did that.
Why won't Fred wear shoes? I mean, there's a lot of important questions there.
Exactly. But like, I did that with one team and this team that I'm referring to, and it was just like it was bad. The way that I did it was when we were very much in person. I took like big flip chart papers and I would answer each of these 9 questions. I would kind of allow them to answer and then write in my own handwriting kind of, so it was anonymized.
Yeah.
I didn't include anything that said like Jennifer says
Yeah.
you're
Barney
setting
Rubble.
aside. Like, so I think that was helpful. And then when that leader came back in and looked through everything, that person could really get a very comprehensive story. But
Hmm.
it's hard. Sometimes you come into a situation like that and you're like, whoa, this is not just like disgruntled, unhappy. This is and demoralized. This is like angry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something to think about. And I think it's not such a fine line between the two. So thinking about,
Yeah, the pretenders would say there's a thin line between love and hate. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I
Well,
think I think
are
that
there things that what's your go-to advice for like someone coming in as a new manager? Because I know mine. I'll ask it and then already answer it. A million years ago, my friend Lori gave me the tip that had been given to her of the first 90 days, the
yeah,
book.
the 30, 60, 90, sure.
Love it. It always like centers your thinking, and the best are I guess they're case studies or narratives of like people who are into their first manager role and all the mistakes they make and all the stuff, and you're like, oh, I'll never do that, but and then you do. But that book is a really good. It's an easy read. I always listen to it on audio book, and I redo it with every new job. It's my kind
Oh,
of. I mean, it's my touch point to start again, because basically it's saying organize those 4,000 thoughts that are coming in and make a plan.
totally. No, I think that's great. I think that's a great place to start for a new manager. I think it really depends. Are you coming into a totally new organization or coming in? It's on, in this example, someone's coming in
Yeah,
to a team that they, within an organization, it sounds like they're already in. So they're not kind of learning the whole landscape. They're really
true. Yeah,
just coming in and trying to get a sense of what the expectations are of this team and really developing, I think, clear lines of communication. Develop a regular cadence that you're communicating to the team, you know,
yeah,
all to like as a collective. What are you develop regular points of communication between you and each of the team members. One of the things that I like to focus on, I think, is really important now. Not more than ever, but I think now that we're really moving away from looking at performance management as like a, as an input focused
Hmm.
exercise, right? Like how many hours are you putting in? How many, we have different ways of kind of nurturing growth that are need to be just thought of a little differently. So, in
Yeah.
addition to doing kind of performance management, where we look at like how are you doing your goals, what kind of outcomes are you achieving, which is really when we look at outcomes based performance, that's obviously we need to be monitoring that. We need to make sure that when people are working more independently and asynchronously, that they're actually coming back with some concrete work. And then we also need to be looking at, when you start those one-on-one conversations with folks, think about performance development as well, right? So think about how to focus on the goals orientation and the coaching orientation, and
Interesting.
like
Yep.
kick that off from the jump, right? Like
Yeah.
how can you kind of, what do people want to learn in the job? And I had someone come on my team not too long ago, and there is a lot to tackle for our team. And I said, as that person was getting up to speed, I said, like, I want you, when you're jumping into this, you have your goals, you know what you need to accomplish, but really think about like what will feel like success for you. What do you want to learn? Like, where do you want to grow? And how can we set this up so that you can do that
Yeah.
best? Instead of just like, I want to win the goal, like I want
Yeah.
to just,
And I'm supposed to produce 15%, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah
yeah,
growth. It's a push goal and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so we would do surveys with the Working Mother Research Institute. And one of our favorite findings was looking at like satisfaction at your work. And it didn't matter what level you were, hourly up to C suite. If you felt that your work was a career and that you were moving forward, there are things to learn, that you felt engaged, that's where the satisfaction lies. No matter where, it wasn't salary, we all want to be paid, we all should be paid, blah. But that engagement on like your career,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that you're learning something new. And yeah, that's what it is. That's what makes it, because it also it telegraphs that your boss and the company is investing in you too. They care,
yeah.
you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Also, if you ever get an opportunity to learn something or do something, take it, because you'll take it with you.
True. Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, so what are we saying here? This person should take this job.
I mean, come to the table with a lot of energy. This isn't going to be, you're not going to kind of roll into this job and kind of,
Hey, hey. All right, all right, all right.
exactly. You're not doing that. You're coming in, and I mean, we actually did this in the opposite order. But what I would say first is really do some thinking. I'd love the suggestion of the 30, 60, 90. you know, the book, which
Which
what's
is,
the
for those who don't
overwhelming?
know, that's, plans for 30 days. What are you gonna, what do you want
Yeah, and
accomplished
then
in 30
60.
days, 60
Right.
days, 90 days? Yes. For those who don't read that book over and over again like I do.
No, I mean, I think it's great. So I think, taking that approach, but then also thinking about your communication style, are you very spirited when you come into a conversation? Are you very direct? Are
Yep.
you very considerate? Do you want to kind of like see how people are and build rapport? Do you need to focus on sort of structured information? Like, where's the data? What does the data say we should do? Just know that everybody's not going to have that same approach that you have, whatever it is you have. It might be some combination of those two, and just be aware of that. So, any kind of reflection that you can do on your style for processing and communicating information. And I mean, I think you could. I don't want anyone to go into like a rabbit hole of trying to kind of figure themselves all out. I think the communication piece is really the place to start when you think about yourself as a leader. And then also, in addition to that, like what motivates you? Like, what do you want to see? Right? What would make, if we said in 8 months, this is going to be a happier team? What is that? What does a happier team look like to you? Is it just that nobody's fighting? Are people creative and collaborating? Like, what's happening? So just kind of defining your style, thinking about, where you would like the team to go. Then, as far as the team investigation piece, really, take a look. You can Google Grippy model, goals, roles, processes, and interpersonal, and just really start to do a scan. Try to think about how to investigate the goals piece first, right? Look at, are there any kind of team charter documents? Are there any strategy documents that you can reference to see, okay, this is what we're saying on paper. Is this really what we're all about in person?
Yeah.
Or not in person, like, not on paper. Then look at the roles, right? And try to identify that and what's going on there and the processes and the interpersonal. Now, the visual that I'm describing is, this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this kind of like step-by-step pyramid. And it's obviously not always as clean as that. But I think that the most important thing is to really, focus on, start with the goals.
Start with a plan of how you're going to take in all this information and organize it, and what to prioritize.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's absolutely how to go. And then I think, you also have folks above you who, not that you would go, with every challenge, but find folks who, maybe inside and outside of the organization who you are inspired by as leaders and who you would like to learn from. And so, as you're exploring the challenges of this role, make sure that you're sort of seeing, as you're thinking about your vision, you're seeing what's possible and what you'd like to aspire to.
I love it.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Growing a successful business has never been easy. But whether you're navigating a complex industry or trying to reinvent one, our breadth of banking experts are here to collaborate on market-proven solutions. At KeyBank, we're built to grow with your changing needs because we're not just here for the business you are now, we're here for the business you'll become. Reimagine business as usual. KeyBank opens doors. Learn more at key.com/B2B.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Breadwinners. Do you have a sticky work-life question for us? Send it our way at thebreadwinnerspod@gmail.com. We're here to help.
And please take a moment to rate and review our show. It really helps. And of course, join us on Facebook or Instagram at The Breadwinners Podcast. And until next time, keep hustling.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.